In this video, we're going to focus on 3 different cost concepts: total cost, marginal cost, and average total cost. Total cost is basically just all of the costs associated with production added up. Remember last time we talked about fixed inputs and variable inputs. Total cost is just equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Marginal cost is going to be the most important cost in terms of deciding how much a firm is going to produce. Marginal cost is the additional cost for each additional unit produced. Average total cost is the average total cost across all of the units being produced. This is the average cost per unit. In this example, we've got a small bakery, and that bakery has 2 different costs. A variable cost, which is the amount that they pay each baker, and a fixed cost, which is their rent. Remember back to the last video, variable inputs vary with production. So if I want to produce more cakes, I'm going to have to hire more bakers. Fixed costs do not vary with production. So no matter how many cakes I produce, my rent is always the same. My fixed cost, no matter how much I produce, is going to be $20. The information that's provided here in the table is really our production function, the relationship between our variable input, labor, and our output. That's cakes. So our variable cost is going to depend on how much labor we hire or how many bakers we employ. Variable cost will be equal to the number of bakers times the cost of each one, which is $60. If I hire no bakers, I have no labor costs. If I hire 1 baker, I have to pay $60. 2 bakers is $120. 3 bakers would be $180, and so on. Then to get total cost, we're just going to add those together. So we've got our total cost equal to our fixed cost plus our variable cost. And then using our total cost, we're going to be able to calculate both the marginal cost and the average total cost for this firm. Remember, marginal cost is change in total cost divided by change in quantity. And we're going to talk about the numerator and the denominator of this fraction differently. But basically, what we want to know is if we're going to produce a couple more cakes, how much are those cakes going to cost? The numerator here, change in total cost, and if I look at, increasing production from 0 bakers to 1 baker, or 1 baker to 2 bakers, my total cost as I move down this table from one row to the next is always going to be $60. The difference is always $60 because the only difference between these rows is that I'm hiring 1 more baker, and each baker costs me $60. The denominator of this fraction is the change in quantity. So now we're wondering, as I hire each additional baker, how much more output does that produce? So what we're going to do is say, all right, as I hire the first baker, that baker costs me $60, but can produce 20 cakes. So the marginal cost, or the cost of producing the first 20 cakes, is going to be 60 over 20, or $3 per cake. Now we can't really calculate marginal cost for 0 bakers because we've made no cakes and the cost per cake is kind of a moot point. Okay, if I now think about going from 1 baker to 2 bakers, again, that's going to increase my cost from 80 to 140. That's $60 in the numerator. And then the denominator is going to be the change in output, the second baker produces an additional 15 cakes, which gives me a marginal cost of 4. I'm going to just keep doing that here as we go down the table. I've got now 60 divided by 10 is 6. 60 divided by 5 is 12, and 60 divided by 3 is 20. One thing I want you to notice about marginal cost is that it is increasing. Marginal cost will always be increasing because we've assumed diminishing returns to scale, or in other words, our marginal product is decreasing. We have increasing marginal cost due to the decreasing marginal product. Because each baker produces a smaller number of cakes, as the fixed inputs become crowded, then the cost of producing cakes is going to increase the more cakes that I'm producing. I'm actually not going to have you calculate average total cost in your problem sets, but we are going to be looking at average total cost in graphs quite a bit in this section. So in this example, we are going to calculate average total cost. That's just total cost divided by quantity. Tells me on average how much does each cake cost. Again, we can't do that for 0 cakes, but if I hire 1 worker, I produce 20 cakes. My total cost is going to be 80. I've got 20 cakes, and my average total cost is 4. The next one is going to be 140 over 35, which is also 4. I've got 200 over 45, 260 over 50 is 5.2, and 320 over 53 is 6.